Do you ever feel like life is controlling you? Like you're just reacting to what happens instead of actually living on your own terms? Well, what if I told you that your suffering isn't caused by what happens to you, but by how you see it? Think about it. Two people can go through the same situation but react in completely different ways. One person faces a problem and feels defeated. Another sees it as a chance to learn and grow. What makes the difference? Their mindset. For thousands of years, philosophers, especially the Stoics, have taught that life is not about what happens to us, but how we think about it. The Stoic teacher Epictetus once said, "People are not disturbed by things but by the views they take of them." Now I know what you're thinking. But life is hard. Bad things happen. People betray us. We fail. We get rejected. How can changing my thoughts make things better? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Stoic philosophy gives us simple but powerful tools to change our way of thinking and, in doing so, take control of our reality. So let's dive in. Why does any of this matter? You don't have to be a prisoner of war or an emperor for this to matter. Every day you face challenges, small ones and big ones. You can't control everything that happens, but you can control how you see it. Your view of the world shapes how you act. If you see problems as unfair, you'll feel like a victim. If you see them as chances to grow, you'll become stronger. If you believe happiness depends on things going perfectly, you'll always be unhappy. But if you understand that happiness comes from your mindset, you'll find peace no matter what happens. This is why Stoicism has been practiced by powerful leaders, great thinkers, and even modern entrepreneurs. Because when you learn to control your mind, you take control of your reality. And that is the first step to real freedom. So how do we do it? How do we change our thoughts to take control of our reality? There are many ways, but let's start with one of the most powerful: understanding the difference between what's in our control and what isn't. In the next part of the video, we'll talk more about this idea and how to put it into practice. There's a powerful illusion most people live under. They think they're in control more than they really are. They think they can control outcomes, how other people see them, or even how the world treats them. And when things don't go their way, they feel frustrated, helpless, or even broken. Now, a Stoic wouldn't put up with that nonsense. They'd know exactly why these things happen and how to fix them. So here's what a Stoic would do when they feel powerless. They'd ask themselves, am I trying to control the controllable or worrying about the uncontrollable? The Stoics believed there were two types of things in life: things we can control, like our thoughts, our actions, our choices, and things we can't control, like what other people think, random events, what happens in the economy, or even how our body ages. But here's the kicker. Most of our suffering comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. Think about all the times we waste trying to shape events, people, or opinions to our liking. We get so caught up in the outcome that we forget to appreciate what we actually can influence. For example, you might be stuck in a career you hate. Every day you feel trapped, wishing you could quit and do something else. But you keep putting off your dreams because you're scared of failing, or you don't have a backup plan. A Stoic would recognize that they can only control their actions, not the outcome. They can't control whether their boss appreciates them or if they get that promotion. But they can control how they perform, how they grow in their role, and how they manage their finances. By focusing on what they can control, they eliminate the things they can't. Another example, maybe you're in a relationship that no longer makes you happy. You feel taken for granted or unloved. So you start controlling your partner through guilt, manipulation, or threats. But guess what? That doesn't work, and it won't make you any happier. A Stoic would understand that they can only control their own behavior, not their partner's feelings. They can't force someone to love them, but they can control how they show up in the relationship, how they communicate, and how they decide to stay or leave. By focusing on their own actions, they take responsibility for their happiness and well-being. So next time you feel powerless, ask yourself, am I trying to control the things I actually can control? Because that's the only way to find true strength and happiness. How does a Stoic take control of their reality? Well, Marcus Aurelius, the most famous Stoic philosopher, once wrote, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Now he's talking about how our reality is not shaped by what happens, but by how we choose to see what happens. In other words, events don't actually change our reality. Our interpretation of those events does. And this is the foundation of Stoicism, but also of modern psychology. In fact, the most common form of therapy used today, cognitive behavioral therapy, is based on this exact principle. It goes, thoughts, feelings, actions, reality. What we think determines how we feel. How we feel determines what we do. And what we do determines our outcome, our reality. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people who both lose their jobs. The first person thinks to themselves, I'm a failure. My life is over. No one's ever going to hire me again. I'm doomed. They feel terrible, so they act terribly. They stop trying. They fall into a deep depression and they end up in a much worse place than they were before. The second person, however, thinks to themselves, wow, this is a blessing in disguise. I was miserable at that job anyway. Now I have the chance to start fresh and do something that I actually enjoy doing. They feel excited, so they act accordingly. They take the time to upskill themselves. They network and they end up in an even better position than they were in before. So the same event, losing a job, creates two completely different realities for these two people. Why? Because our thoughts determine our feelings. Our feelings determine our actions, which in turn determine our reality. So if we choose to see the glass as half empty, our world will become small, dark, and fearful. But if we choose to see the glass as half full, our world will be full of opportunities and possibilities. And this is the core of Stoicism, that we have the power to choose how we see things, to reframe our thoughts, and therefore control our feelings and actions. When we realize this, we can start to take control of our reality. We can start to build the life we want. One of the most useful tools in Stoic philosophy is learning to change the way you see problems. This idea is called reframing. Instead of seeing obstacles as big, scary problems, you can see them as chances to learn and grow. A key part of this is a practice called premeditatio malorum. This means thinking about what might go wrong before it happens. By doing this, you are not surprised when hard times come. You are ready, and the problems seem smaller when they actually occur. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This means that our minds often make problems seem worse than they really are. When you worry a lot about what might go wrong, you create more pain than the event itself would cause. By practicing premeditatio malorum, you can face your fears and see that the bad things you worry about may not happen, or if they do, you can handle them. This way of thinking is similar to the idea in Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way. Holiday shows us that every problem can be turned into a chance to improve. Instead of being stopped by a setback, you can use it to build your strength and character. When you see problems as opportunities, you open up new paths and discover ways to solve them that you might not have thought of before. A very helpful technique to change your view is called the view from above. In this exercise, imagine lifting yourself up high above your daily life. From this high place, you can see your problems from a new perspective. The small troubles that felt huge when you were in the middle of them seem much smaller and less important from far away. It is like looking at a big picture where each setback is just a tiny part of your whole life. You can try this exercise by taking a few deep breaths and picturing your life as a large landscape. See each problem as a small bump in a vast field. This helps you feel calmer and more in control. It shows you that you have the power to decide how to react, no matter what happens around you. You are not defined by your problems. Instead, your reaction to them is what matters most. When you reframe a challenge, you change your focus. Instead of thinking about all the things that can go wrong, you think about what you can learn from the situation. You also start to see that every difficulty carries a lesson that can help you grow stronger and wiser. This is a very powerful way to live. It means you take control of your life by controlling your mind. You do not let outside events make you upset. Instead, you choose to respond in a calm and thoughtful way. In simple words, reframing is about training your mind to see obstacles in a new light. By expecting problems, looking at them from a distance, and focusing on the lessons they bring, you can turn any setback into a chance to improve. This is the true power of Stoic philosophy. It reminds you that while you cannot control everything that happens, you can always control your thoughts and your reactions. Embrace this power, and you will find that every challenge has the potential to make you stronger. Epictetus once said, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens be the way it is." This idea is about accepting life as it comes instead of fighting against it. When you resist reality, you often create more pain for yourself. You may think that if things were different, you would be happier, but in truth, your struggle to change what you cannot control only adds extra suffering. When you try to force the world to be different from what it is, you waste your energy. Instead of working on things you can change, you end up stuck on problems you have no power over. For example, if you wish that every day would be perfect, you will feel disappointed when even small setbacks occur. This constant fighting against reality leads to stress, anxiety, and unhappiness. Accepting things as they are does not mean you give up on your dreams. It means you learn to work with what you have instead of battling what is beyond your control. A powerful example of this idea is the story of Admiral James Stockdale. Admiral Stockdale was a prisoner of war in Vietnam. During his long time in captivity, he faced many hardships and extreme suffering. Instead of spending his energy wishing his situation was different or fighting against the reality of his life in a POW camp, Stockdale chose to accept his circumstances. He understood that he could not change the fact that he was a prisoner. By accepting his reality, he focused on what he could control: his thoughts, his attitude, and his inner strength. Stockdale used Stoic principles to guide him through his darkest times. He practiced radical acceptance by preparing himself for the worst that might happen and learning to live with his situation. This acceptance did not make him weak. On the contrary, it gave him strength. By not wasting time and energy on resisting the inevitable hardships, Stockdale found a way to survive and even thrive under conditions that would break many people. His ability to accept his reality allowed him to focus on his inner life and maintain hope even in dire circumstances. Letting go of the need to control everything gives you power. When you stop fighting reality, you free up mental energy to work on what you can change. This power comes from knowing that your inner world, your thoughts, emotions, and reactions, is something you can always manage. Accepting the way things are helps you see challenges clearly. Instead of viewing difficulties as roadblocks, you see them as chances to learn and grow. When you let go of unrealistic expectations, you make space for peace and clarity in your mind. In simple words, radical acceptance means you choose to embrace life with all its ups and downs instead of battling against the way things are. By accepting reality, you lower your stress and build inner strength. The story of Admiral Stockdale shows that even in the worst conditions, acceptance can lead to survival and strength. When you let go of the need for everything to be perfect, you gain control over your mind. That control is the true power that can help you navigate life's challenges with calm and resilience. Taking control of your life starts with small daily actions. Here are 4 simple steps you can use to build a stronger, more resilient mindset based on Stoic principles. Step 1. Daily Stoic reflection. Spend a few minutes each day writing in a journal. Reflect on your thoughts and feelings. Ask yourself questions like, what went well today? What challenged me? This habit helps you understand your reactions and patterns. When you write down your thoughts, you can see if you are thinking in irrational or unhelpful ways. Journaling allows you to challenge these beliefs by asking, is this thought really true? Or, can I see this situation from another angle? Over time, you will learn to catch negative thoughts early and replace them with more balanced ideas. This daily reflection is like a workout for your mind, making it stronger and more clear. Step 2. Practice voluntary discomfort. Every once in a while, choose to step out of your comfort zone on purpose. This can mean taking a cold shower, skipping a fancy meal, or walking instead of driving when the weather is good. The idea is to expose yourself to controlled hardship. When you practice voluntary discomfort, you learn that you can handle small challenges. This builds your mental strength. By choosing these small challenges, you prepare yourself for bigger difficulties in life. You learn that discomfort is temporary and that you have the power to overcome it. This habit helps you see that even when things feel hard, you can control your reaction. Step 3. Negative visualization. Spend some time imagining that you might lose things you value. This is called negative visualization. Think about what it would feel like to lose a job, a prized possession, or even someone you care about. The goal is not to make you sad, but to build your resilience. By imagining these losses, you learn to appreciate what you have. You also prepare your mind for potential challenges. When life does not go as planned, you will be less shocked and more ready to cope. Negative visualization shows you that many things are not completely in your control. Accepting this truth makes you more flexible and calm when problems arise. Step 4. Embrace the Amor Fati mindset. Amor Fati is a Latin phrase that means love your fate. Instead of wishing for life to be different, try to love everything that happens, even the difficult parts. When you embrace this idea, you stop wasting energy fighting against reality. Accepting what comes your way with all its ups and downs gives you true power. You start to see every experience as a chance to learn and grow. When you love your fate, you also become more grateful for the small blessings in your life. By practicing these 4 steps, daily reflection, voluntary discomfort, negative visualization, and embracing Amor Fati, you begin to build a stronger, more resilient mindset. Each step helps you understand that while you cannot control everything in the world, you can always control your thoughts and actions. This is the key to taking control of your reality. Start small, and over time, these habits will transform how you face challenges and build a better, more peaceful life. As we come to the end of this video, remember that reality isn't something that happens to you. It is something you shape with your own thoughts and actions. Every day you have the power to decide how you see the world and how you respond to life's challenges. Stoic philosophy teaches us that our thoughts are the building blocks of our reality. When you choose to see obstacles not as disasters but as opportunities to learn and grow, you take control of your life. Think about it this way. Each problem or setback you face is a chance to understand yourself better and to improve. Instead of letting difficult events leave you feeling defeated, you can view them as stepping stones on the path to a stronger, wiser you. Your mind is like a garden. By planting positive thoughts and removing unhelpful ones, you cultivate a life that reflects your best self. You are not a passive recipient of what happens. You are the artist of your own reality. I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next week, whenever something bad happens, instead of reacting immediately, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, how can I see this differently? This simple question can change your entire outlook. When you pause, you give yourself time to think and choose a new perspective, rather than being swept away by negative emotions. For example, if a mistake at work makes you feel upset, use that pause to ask if the mistake might be a chance to learn something new. If you face a conflict with someone, consider how this challenge might help you understand them better, or even improve your communication skills. By practicing this small habit of reframing your experiences, you begin to notice that your reactions are within your control. You are not defined by the problems that come your way. Instead, you have the power to transform each situation into a moment of growth. This is the true essence of Stoicism, focusing on what you can control, your thoughts and actions, while accepting that not everything will go as planned. In doing so, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering and find peace no matter what life throws at you. Your reality is shaped by the choices you make each day. You decide how to feel, how to act, and ultimately how to live. When you take the time to reflect, adjust your perspective, and embrace the challenges as part of your journey, you begin to mold your life into something meaningful and resilient. Remember that every setback is only temporary, and every hardship holds a lesson that can help you grow stronger. Thank you for watching this video on taking control of your reality through Stoic philosophy. Together, let's build a community that shapes its own reality, one thoughtful decision at a time.